Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by. I'm always grateful. Macro thoughts, negative interest rates, the new normal next time economies slump. Ruskin nevertheless holds out the possibility that leading central banks will go negative next time, and even that the ECB's deposit rate may not see positive territory again. It's not even clear you're going to get zero at the peak of the cycle in Europe, he said, which is a very interesting thought. And then Holger tweeted, adjusting to the new negative normal, 2-year Netherlands bond yields hit a fresh all-time low, negative 0.344%. Home Thoughts Lower Wildlife tweeted this, sometimes it feels like we are guardians of a beautiful painting. It is indeed a beautiful photograph. One of my favourite writers is DeLillo, and in the Paris Review he's described a man who's been called the chief shaman of the paranoid school of American fiction. This is from an interviewer. In the shape of shadow conspiracy shows up for the first time in your third novel, Great Jones Street. What brought you to write about the idea of a mysterious drug possibly tied to government repression? DeLillo. It was in the air, it was the way people were thinking. Those were the days when the enemy was some presence seeping out of the government, and the most paranoid sort of fear was indistinguishable from common sense. I think I tried to get at the slickness connected with the word paranoia. It was becoming a kind of commodity. It used to mean one thing, and after a while it began to mean everything. It became something you bought into, like Club Med. Were you looking for a plot? I think the plot found me. In a book about fear and paranoia, a plot was bound to assert itself. It's not the tightest sort of plotting, more like drug fantasies, seeing dead relatives come out of the walls. What we finally have is a man in a small room, a man who has shut himself away, and this is something that happens in my work, the man hiding from acts of violence, or planning acts of violence, or the individual reduced to silence by the forces around him. And then one more, could you tell me about the passage in White Noise in which Jack listens to his daughter Steffi talking in her sleep, and she's repeating the words Toyota Celica. There's something nearly mystical about certain words and phrases that float through our lives. It's computer mysticism. Words that are computer generated to be used on products that might be sold anywhere, from Japan to Denmark. Words devised to be pronounceable in 100 languages, but when you detach one of these words from the product it was designed to serve, the word acquires a chant-like quality. Years ago, somebody decided, I don't know how this conclusion was reached, that the most beautiful phrase in the English language was cellar door. If you concentrate on that sound, if you disassociate the words from the object they denote, and if you say the words over and over, they become a sort of higher Esperanto. This is how Toyota Celica began its life. It was pure chant at the beginning. Then they had to find an object to accommodate the words. He is brilliant. From Libra, there's always more to it. That is what history consists of. It is the sum total of things they are not telling us. And then there is a world inside the world. This tweet got my attention. Jenan Musa, name of the Afghan girl beheaded by radicals is Shukriya. This is her picture. Least we can do is remember her name and her face. Then Sputnik tweeted, who's a terrorist and who's not? Mr. Putin says Moscow is working on ballistic missiles capable of penetrating any missile defenses. He accused the US of developing new missile defense systems in order to neutralize Russia's nuclear deterrent. Washington was deliberately seeking a decisive military superiority. In response, he said Moscow will build ballistic airstrike systems capable of penetrating any missile defenses. Let me leave you with one sentence that was in an article I've read. The link is on Rich Wrap-Ups. The window for Turkish troops to enter Syria unopposed has closed. And that's because, according to this writer, Kuwera is having been liberated. Barack Obama was named the LGBT Ally of the Year by Out magazine. Currency markets: Euro 107.45, dollar index 98.82, Japanese yen 122.92, Swissy 1.0031, pound big rally 152.02, and remember it had touched 150.27 on Friday. Aussie, another big rally there, 0.7147, biggest mover in Asia after Australian employment came in at 58,600 new jobs in October. India rupee 66.06, South Korean 111.5740, Real 376.69, Egyptian pound 783.01, South African rand 14.1279. Let me put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index, and it's drifting down after hitting a 7-month peak of 99.504. That was on Tuesday. Euro dollar, I'll put up a 3-month chart. It trades very heavy for now. We're last trading 107.47. Have a look at this chart from Holger. Portugal, Italy and Spain 10-year yields. Javier Blas, Commodities Watch, the London Metal Exchange Index dropped to a 6-year low yesterday. That includes copper, aluminium, zinc, nickel, lead and tin. Gold is trading at 1087.66, looking wobbly. Crude oil was down more than 3% overnight. It's bouncing a tiny bit today. NYMEX $43.16. NYMEX fell 3%, and Brent crude fell 3.4% the previous session. Have a look at this chart of copper, which is at a 6-year low versus the Shanghai Composite. From Bloomberg, I learned a Hong Kong billionaire spent a record $48.4 million on a 12.03 carat diamond dubbed the Blue Moon for his 7-year-old daughter in an auction in Geneva. Joseph Lau bought the rock at Sotheby's on Wednesday and immediately renamed it the Blue Moon of Josephine after his daughter. The sale comes the day after he spent $28.5 million buying a rare 16.08 carat pink diamond, the largest of its kind to ever go under the hammer, from rival auction house Christie's. I'll put up a photograph of the rare Blue Moon diamond shown during a preview at Sotheby's in Geneva. Let's move on to Sub-Saharan Africa. Little Djibouti, the Gate of Tears, why it's the hottest African address for big powers. It's saying China has made a move, it wants a piece of the action in a tiny country in the Horn of Africa. It's a long and complex story, and this is the short of it. Bab el Mandeb is the narrow sea channel that separates Djibouti from Yemen. If you stand on Ras Sian, the sharp peninsula that juts out from the eastern coast of Djibouti, Asia is only 30 kilometers away. Essentially, Djibouti sits on a choke point, and that's why everybody's interested in getting a piece of it. Turkish President Erdogan was welcomed with an official ceremony by the President of Djibouti. That was in January this year. And Charles Onyango Obo has tweeted a map which shows you why it is the hottest address for big powers. Troops could be sent to Burundi if violence worsens. This was what diplomats are saying. Plan would need authorization from the 15-member Security Council under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter. A second contingency option, which is more likely, is being considered, is to send in the East African Standby Force. While this is ultimately a matter for the Security Council to decide, a regional coalition would be well placed to provide a rapid and credible response if the situation in Burundi worsens, says the UN. When night falls, the gunfire starts across Burundi's capital. When the sun rises, residents count the bodies. Grim routine in Bujumbura. Interesting piece, and that's in the Mail and Guardian on which wrap-ups. Nkurunziza is unlikely to complete his current mandate. And unless there is sudden progress on dialogue, which appears unlikely, he is likely to be overthrown in a coup d'etat. which in turn would plunge the country even deeper into crisis. The opposition is internally divided and heavily marginalized. The real threat stems from defections from the ruling camp, divisions in the security forces, and broader polarization of society. South African all-share marginally higher yesterday. It's up 5.67% year to date. I like this photograph of the Table Mountain. Doesn't it look fantastic? Dollar rand 14.1279, but not far off the record low. Egyptian pound 783.01. That's going lower. Egyptian EGX 30 down 23.8% year to date. Wells Fargo is saying MTN suffered a shakedown by the Nigerian regulator. The fine is outrageous by any rational stretch of punishing the company. If you can shake down MTN, you can shake down anybody. The United States and the EU have raised concerns at the WTO about Nigeria's central bank's curbs on access to foreign currency. The Nigerian all-shares down 16.28% this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is down 12.46% this year. You will recall my piece I wrote over the weekend, Wow, What a Ride. And I concluded by saying, in the immediate term and after some stomach-churning turbulence, we have sight of the landing strip. It now behoves the banks to bring the interest rate down as quickly as they raised it. The 182 Treasury bill was down to 12.8%. 364 Treasury bill down to 13.6%. Kenya Airways released first half earnings. Revenue was largely flat at 56.72 billion. But interesting operational improvements. Direct operating costs down 17.49%. Overheads down 7.97%. Total operating costs down 12.41%. Operating loss sharply lower at negative 2.176 billion shillings versus 10.455 billion shillings the last time. Finance costs up over 100%, new fleet. Fuel derivatives negative 1.312 billion. Other costs up sharply, up 318.55% to 4.897 billion. 4 billion of that was a restructuring charge. Loss after tax 11.952 billion. Loss per share 7 shillings and 99 cents per share, and last time it was 6 shillings and 99 cents per share. So improving operational story being obscured by a very big FX impairment, 4 billion restructuring, higher finance costs. Cash and cash equivalents at the end of the period at 7.46 billion shillings. They've got a bridge loan from the Afrexim Bank. They've already drawn down 100 million of that. That's going to be $200 million. Talking about priority areas: airlines, suboptimal financing, commercial efficiency, network optimization, cost containment and productivity. 48 planes in the fleet. Reduced capacity offered. Passengers increased 2%. I think it's found a flaw, but the question is, what's the trajectory of the rebound? We've looked for that rebound severally and it hasn't come. But the second half is normally much stronger than the first half. Bank Kalele Kenya KQ turnaround plan developed with McKinsey with 24 initiatives worth a potential $200 million. Kenya shilling strong at 102.25, notwithstanding the lower interest rates. Nairobi all share up 4.55% since the 4th of November, largely driven by those Safaricom results. Have a look at the interview I did with Bob, where I was quite fulsome, and I was right, because that's why the market's rallied the stock up 10.452% since releasing those earnings. Revenue was up an eye-popping 22.54%. Very strong. Now NSE 20 is up 2.32% since the 3rd of November. Interesting piece in Business Daily about what lifted Centum's earnings, saying it was earnings growth attributed to investment and other income, which grew over threefold. Booked a 900 million shilling gain from the sale of its 21.5% stake in AON Minet, and a lot of detail around those earnings, and do have a look at the final link, which is sent them. The earnings is analysed by myself, and that responded 5.56% higher yesterday after those results were received. So once again, thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it.